Hello, what's up, good people? Good to see you once again. Now, you aren't supposed to pay over 30% of your total income towards your rent, all right? This is quite a sensitive matter, and by the way, today I'm going to discuss exactly and explain to you why you're not supposed to pay over 30% of your total income towards pay your rent. Because I've been receiving a lot of calls from people and telling me, hey, Joseph, I have a financial crisis because whenever I get my salary at the end of the month, and by the way, it doesn't even reach my 10th date, and by the way, sometimes around 11th, 12th, 15th, I contemplate of getting an advance, and actually I don't even have anything that I'm saving. Where might my problem be? And then I ask them, how do you break down your income? How exactly do you use your money? Where do you direct it? And how exactly do you consume it? And whenever they charge the rent, that's where the issue becomes on. And by the way, this is quite a sensitive issue, and at the end of the day, I would like you to stick around, watch this video to the end so that you understand exactly what do I mean by not paying over 30% of your total income towards paying your rent, right? So stick around. Today's all about money and how you're supposed to allocate it. But before we do exactly that, because I don't want you to miss any of my good videos in the future, this is what I want you to do. Take 1 second, doesn't cost anything, only 1 second. And I bet you're rich enough to afford that 1 second. Just down below there on your right, there is a button written subscribe. It is in black. Just hit that magical button. Then on your left, there is a like button. Hit those two magical buttons, and guess what happens? You get to be notified whenever I upload a new good video. So let's get into today's business. Now, what does it mean by saying you aren't supposed to pay over 30% of your total income towards your rent? What exactly that means is this. Say, very simple example. Let's say you earn like 30,000 at the end of the month. Let's say after taxes and what have you, 30,000 is what gets into your pocket. Now, you may find some individual or an individual. For example, if I may give you in a practical way, somebody called me and told me, hey, Joseph, I'm earning 30,000 and I'm paying 12,500 for my house rent. I use like 5,000 for my transport. And before you even continue at that particular point, I noticed a problem, because let me tell you one thing, numbers don't lie. Let's take that case scenario. The guy is earning 30,000, you're getting yourself 12,500 for the rent. At that particular point, you are using what we call, or you are going above or below, or what we call, you surpass what we call the 30% rule when you're paying your house rent. 12% or 12,500 is way above 30%. And what I mean by this particular point, by saying you aren't supposed to pay over 30% of your total income towards your rent, at this particular point, what is 10% or rather 30% of 30,000? That should be around 9,000. That's the amount of money that you're supposed to revolve around in that particular case for you to be within the means of actually what we call the 50, 30, 20% rule when it comes to you allocating your income. This is a quite complex with people, and in most cases, whenever I target this thing, you find like a lot of people rub shoulders and tell me, hey, what do you want us to live? Where do you want us to live? The amount numbers that you're giving, it's not logical unless I live in some places or shanty places and what have you. So if that means you being successful in future just for the sake of that, so be it, right? So at the end of the day, there is what we call the sacrificial time that you're supposed to do so that at least you can be able. Let me tell you one secret. If you may realize one thing, what's happening right now, there is an inflation. A lot of things have been hiked in terms of pricing. All right. Sometimes you may say like the house rent has remained constant, but you're paying a lot of money in other consumables like the foods and what have you. But your salary, how much you've been getting before the inflation hit Kenya? Right now we are talking of 9.2%. Before the inflation came, the same salary is the same that you're getting right now. So that means that you have also to adjust yourself. But now let's take this case scenario. You take your 12,000, you pay towards your rent. Of course, what you're supposed to eat at the end of the month should go hand in hand with how much you're paying for your rent. Some people even do so below. All right, so let's say you take your 14,000, or rather your 12,000 again, or 12,500. Now the 25,000 is gone. All right, so you're remaining with your transport. You set aside like 3,000. You reach to a point whereby you cannot even survive with the 30,000. You are required to go out there and borrow for you to fund what you call the consumables. You haven't paid your electricity, you haven't paid your water, you haven't paid other utilities here and there. And let's say a case scenario, maybe you have kids that you are in, you have kids in school. At that particular point, that's where the things become a bit complicated. This is a very simple advice that I will give you out there. Make sure that your rent does not surpass the 30% mark. With the case of a 60,000, that means that 18,000 should be at most your cap, whereby your money should not go beyond when you're dedicating it towards paying your rent. But when you have your 30,000, you're dedicating 12,500 towards paying your rent. At that particular point, you've shot your foot because you are above by 3,500. That 3,000 you should dedicate it towards your savings. And this is the trick that I always advise people to do. The moment you get your salary, don't think of consuming then saving. All right, you're supposed to think of saving or take or set aside that amount of money that you save. And by the way, I hate using the term saving because at the end of the day, you can never save yourself to riches. What you do, you accumulate money. I think the appropriate term there is to store money. You accumulate money. Now that money, after you accumulating and reach to a certain particular point, we usually call it capital. You take now that capital, you invest it or you start a business, because there is a difference between investing and starting a business. You can either way start a business or you can invest. At that particular point now, the money that you get back after investing your capital is called the baby money, or it's usually called the passive. That particular point now, that's why we say you are an investor. But when you're consuming almost everything and sometimes above whatever you're getting, at that particular point, that means that you are not able to save. Then that means the moment you get your money, the very first thing that you're supposed to do is to get out of that money 20%. At least, if you can manage above 20%, so be it. But if you cannot be able to manage, then take 20%, put it aside for the sake of investments in the future. All right? Let's take a case scenario again. Using this guy with 30,000 and 12,500 rent, kind of. If maybe he or she took that month in money immediately after getting the 30,000, take aside the 20% of the 30,000, which is basically like 6,000. You take your 6,000, fix it somewhere. You can do it in a circle whereby you are entitled to a dividends. You are entitled to what we call a loan, if you're the kind of a person who would like to get a loan for the sake of development. So, or you can take that money, you direct it towards a money market fund whereby you'll be getting a dividend. You can take that money. There are multiple areas whereby you can be able to invest this amount of money. So once you get that money, 20% of it, which is 6,000, you're remaining with 24,000. Now budget within the 24,000. Whatever the amount of money you're gonna pay for your rent, at that particular point, Joseph doesn't care. What you're supposed to do now, budget within the 24,000, rather than you budgeting with the 30,000. Now with the 24,000 should be the money that you subject towards your paying your rent. All right, you put that money aside. Let me tell you one secret. I always tell people, you rather look as if you don't think but you do, rather than looking as if you think but you don't. Those are two distinctive things that you can actually see out there. I know most of the people, and actually all the people, tend to judge you based on how you dressed, based on how exactly you present yourself. But this is the fact. At the end of the day, the life gonna be yours. Once you get retired, you haven't done anything for the sake of your life. You're the only person who's gonna face some challenges and the problems. Reason as to why I decided to make these videos, because I've been getting lots of calls out there from the people telling me, hey Joseph, help me to budget this amount of money. Today I'm gonna give you a very simple rule that you're supposed to incorporate in your life so that at least you be able to have what you call the financial freedom as you grow forward. I would advise you to advocate what we call the 50-30-20% rule, meaning the 50% of the money that you get, basically half should be dedicated towards your normal daily activities, like the rent, like the water, utilities, food, and what have you. All those things that makes a day run. Dedicate the half of that amount of money towards that specific thing. The 30%, of course, we talked about it. The 20% at this case, you're supposed to dedicate this amount of money towards what we call the savings. The savings are the purposes of savings. Did I explain that you cannot be able to save yourself towards riches, but you can take that savings and make it to a point whereby you can be able to raise a capital and start a business so that you can grow yourself to the next level. At that juncture, if you incorporate that specific rule, then and only then you can be able to tell and predict your future that it's gonna be not a bumpy ride, but a good way to actually going out there and saving. And people ask me, hey Joseph, even if you tell me to save 20% of my money is like 2K, 20% of my money is like 3,000 or something, where can I save my money? Let me tell you one thing. There are two ways that you can do. You can kill two birds with one stone. You can actually go ahead and save your money, and at the same time your money is subjected to what we call the interest. Because the point is this: at all the occasion, understand and incorporate this in your understanding. There is something called inflation. All right, it's like a virtual tax. It has to be there, meaning that you're losing your money the way it is. Right now, we are talking about 9.2%. Do you know what that means? That exactly means that at the end of the year, say you had like 100,000 in your bank, and then the entire year the inflation was 9.2. You basically lost 9,200 just like that. Just went into the down drain. Yes, I know if you go to the bank and at the ATM and key your numbers and whatever, you'll see the balance still 100,000. That is true. The balance will show 100,000. But the fact remains, if you were to do something with that 100,000 like a year ago, when there was no inflation, or rather the inflation was quite low, that thing that you could do today with that specific amount of money, it's way below that what you could have done some years back. That's a very simple case scenario that I will explain to you why inflation, and at all the times you're supposed to keep yourself above the inflation, because inflation is real, it is out there, and it is dismantling people, and people are losing money because of inflation. Let's take a very simple case scenario. Let's say somebody gave you like 2,000 shillings, all right, like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and you were to buy a cooking oil, let's say a 10-liter one, all right. At that particular point, a 10-liter one was costing, or was pricing at 10,000, or rather 1,050 shillings, so 1,100, let's talk of that. And then that individual gives you the same 1,100 and tells you to go to the that supply and whatever the place and buy the same amount of cooking oil. You cannot be able to do so. Right now we are talking of 2,200. Basically, it's like you've lost your money. You cannot be able to purchase that specific item. You can only manage to buy maybe half of it, actually half of it, all right. So that means it's because of inflation, and that means at all the occasion, make sure that at least you rather live as if you don't think but you do, rather than to live as you do but you don't. Those are two distinctive ways, and I always repeat that. And remember this: wealth is never an event, it's always a process. It has to take time, discipline must be involved, what we call the consistency must be involved, and also sacrifices and sacrifices. I always tell people, if it means you sacrificing for 5 good years for the sake of 50, 60, 70, and another generation, so be it. This generation that is out there who is saying that the life is short, life is for the living, is good, nice yourself, and what have you, and all those things, that's the emotional approach of money. And let me tell you one thing: there are two organs in your body when it comes to money. You can either approach your money using your heart, and you can either approach your money using your brain. And in most cases, when you approach money using your heart, that is the emotion related. You tend to imagine where you've been working throughout the month, you've been hustling, you've been doing all these things, you feel like, you know what, this body deserves to be done good or something of. So now you're feeling about money, you're being emotional about money, and in most cases you're likely to make wrong decisions. And after you've made those wrong decisions, now that's where now the brain kicks in and now tells you, oh my goodness, I think I should have directed that money towards something, I should have done something, I should have done that, you get, now you're reasoning, out, and you'll be like, okay fine, next month once I get that money, this is what I will do, and blah blah blah. So I would advise this: immediately after getting your money, kindly engage your brain towards that money matters. All right, so anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you managed to watch this video up to this particular point, I just want to say thank you very much. If you're out there, you would like to get any of my booklets, especially this one about the money management skills, I got it ready for you. You can text me on WhatsApp. My number is on the description of this specific video. You can text me and get that copy for you. It's only $250. I got some other booklets about money market fund, treasury bills, about circles, about investments, conversion of businesses. Like I have one about the business plans, and another one about business ideas and what have you. You can give me a call using the same number, or you can text me, and then from there we can talk business and progress to the next level. At the occasion, remember this: that knowledge is power. Never despise it. As for now, by the way, don't forget to hit that subscription button. My name is Joseph, talk about money and anything related to exactly that. And if that's a cup of your coffee, make sure you subscribe.